Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here and to see so many familiar faces. As some of you know, I spent 25 great years in Minneapolis schools doing research, and now for the past 3 years I've been in Bloomington. And I want to talk a little bit about our partnerships around early literacy, et cetera, but then move quickly to the other end of the spectrum to talk about college and career readiness and how we're doing impact studies of our college and career readiness programs. So the vision for Minneapolis Public Schools aligns very closely with the world's best workforce 5 goals. Ready for kindergarten, reading well by 3rd grade, college and career ready, reducing the achievement gaps, and all students graduating on time. And so we already had this kind of infographic about our pathways to graduation, and we had a number of indicators that we'd been using for years, and we built in some new ones. So we have milestones now that are targets for each individual student, each grade level, each school, and all the way up to the district level. And we report out to the school board, and 2 of my colleagues from Bloomington from the school board, Nellie and Tom, are here, what we call vision cards. So we align everything from the individual student up through the vision cards. Now we've gone down to preschool, so we use the Minneapolis preschool screening instrument for referring to special ed, but I found that you could also find a cut point on that tool that predicts kindergarten readiness. So we're using that to give feedback on what percentage of our kids, even at the age of 3, are on track for kindergarten. We want to get a greater participation of families in that preschool screening early on so that we can get students into high-quality preschool experiences by age 4. And then we do have benchmarks at middle school, on track for high school, all the way up to career and college readiness. So one of the first things I did when I got to Minneapolis Public Schools is to look at the data that we had for our MAP test and see if I could predict, based on the MAP test, where you'd have to be on track for 8th grade Explore College Ready, 10th grade Plan College Ready, ACT at 11th grade. And we found a very high correlation between the MAP and those indicators. And I had started this work in Minneapolis. I had that nice database and then validated it against our Bloomington database, which is a little smaller. I'm glad to see you're up to 35,000. I left at 30,000. You already have quite a bit of value added there, Eric. I call it the rainbow. So we have measures that predict whether you finish 2-year college within 4 to 6 years. We have measures that predict whether you could get into a 4-year college like University of Mankato, and then a select college like the University of Minnesota. You have to have an ACT of about 25 to really have a good chance to get into Minnesota now. It's a very select school. And then I even put Harvard or Carleton up there for the elite private college. So each student then can monitor their own pathways on the map, and at the end of the year get a perspective on whether they're on track. It looks something like this. I also was able to use this rainbow graph to show just how high our standards are now in reading. When we went from the MCA 2 reading to the MCA 3 reading, we had a huge drop in the state, and the state says reading proficiency plummets in the state. Well, it was all due to very high Common Core standards. So it used to be in 3rd grade, if you were reading at the 35th percentile, you were on track and you could be proficient. Now you have to be at the 60th percentile. So we're actually above grade level with our standards, just so everybody knows. And so then we also use that information to track individual students. So this is on an app, and so that parents can, right after the MAP test is given, they can get in and see the latest data point, see if their students are on track to get into a four-year college. One of the middle school principals does a big college fair day where he brings everybody in and gives the individual report to each parent. And there's so many ecstatic parents that say, well, I really didn't think, nobody in our family has been to a four-year college. And you see the scores say this student could get into a four-year college and do well. So that's one piece of the college readiness picture. Then we put together what we're calling our personal growth plan for every student. So on this app, you'll also be able to access what the courses are, what the it's like the parent portals that most of you have, but it's all in one place with the data on proficiency and getting stronger in reading, but also we'll have goals related to life and social skills and be able to track a number of other things. So the student will choose, oh, I'd really like to get into a four-year college, and then we'll say, well, based on your MAP data so far, it looks like you're on track. But if you wanted to get into a more select college, we'd have to accelerate, and then the question is, what do we do to make sure that acceleration could take place? So this is all on what we're calling the hub now. We started with 9th grade students this year. We're going to go up to all of high school, and then we're going to go down to middle school. So each student will have an individual plan. And it includes the world of work. This is what used to be on the Explore and the Plan, and it's kind of like when you took the career interest inventory in middle school and it told you you were -2 on forestry, but you'd be really good at social work secretary. That's what mine said. Also a computer programmer also, and that fit pretty close. But yeah, anyways, mechanical stuff I was also negative. So it kind of gives you a picture of what, based on your responses, what kind of field you might think about. And then you can see how that is maybe discrepant from what you said you wanted to be. Anyways, it starts the discussion. And then we also want to keep track of community service. We want to know about all the things that students are doing outside of school that really impact their potential for success in the future. So that's the pathway growth plan for every student. Now we've got specific collaborations with a number of organizations, starting with Normandale Community College, really a huge asset for Bloomington to have the community college right there. We just met with their new head of research this week. We're really excited to be able to track our pathways and give information to Normandale, and then they're creating new pathways as well. They're trying different things, like instead of all students having to have the same kind of college level math, they're going to have alternatives for schools. There's so many kids in community college that are taking remedial math and they don't get credit for it, and it costs a lot of money, and those kids tend to drop out. So could we build different pathways for kids that have different career aspirations? And so that's exciting work. Kindergarten, the 9th and 10th graders also who are gifted students, really high level, are taking all their math and science at Normandale College right now, and we're going to work and follow them longitudinally and see if they do as well or better than typical first-year college students. So we already have PSEO and concurrent enrollment, but we've got this new Dimensions Academy High School, which is at Normandale, and then we've got the College and Career Academy, which we just launched this year. And the idea there is for kids that want to go directly into the world of work or want to get a jump on certification in IT or in medical, technical areas, etc., they can get that certification while they're still in high school, save a ton of money, and then be on track. There's so many kids that are wandering without really knowing exactly what they're doing. Some of them are in two-year colleges. They haven't really focused in on the career. So we're hoping to help with that. The Career and College Academy this fall, we were hoping to have 100 students, but we got 120, and we're going to have over 200 students throughout the year that are taking at least one of the courses. These courses include building and construction trades, criminal justice and law enforcement, EMT, EMR, registered nursing assistant, and information and technology. So we have instructors from the technical schools coming in. It's not our own teachers doing it. This is totally funded by grants and by money from the private sector. So we're not taking money away from K-12 to pay for it. But so far, it looks like our students are doing quite well. We'll be able to check the mid-course grades and the credits and stuff. And then we're going to follow these kids all the way into the workforce and do a return on investment study where we have a comparison group of similar kids that didn't get the program and find out how much of an impact that this had on their lives, on their incomes, the type of jobs that they have. So our strategic partners include the Governor's Workforce Development Council. We've just met with the Lieutenant Governor's researchers that are interested in doing this kind of work, Hennepin County. And then we're branching to Hennepin Technical College next year. We also have the Department of Education. Dunwoody has some of their instructors coming into our program. We've got the building and trades, as I mentioned. Aspen Equipment is going to be part of the new pathways that we're going to have at Hennepin Technical College, and we're also going to continue our work with the United Way. Walser is given a big impetus for this, and we will be starting to train students in automotive training next year as well. So these are our partners. And what we have in the state is a fantastic K-12 database, the MARS data. Then we've got the SLEDS now. The SLEDS database is the state longitudinal education data. State got a grant from the feds. We were one of the first 3 states to get it. We are now at the point where districts can get in and look at this information. You can see what percentage of your graduates have finished school within 4 to 6 years. You can find out what majors that they had. You can find out what kind of colleges they enrolled at. This has been kind of like a gold mine. I mean, I just have thoroughly enjoyed getting in there. Unfortunately, the initial data that I downloaded from the state didn't have any MARS numbers on it, so I had to invent a way of matching kids based on the test scores and on the demographics. But I ended up with 95% match, and I'll share a little bit of what we found out so far. The next step, and where we have folks that are helping us work on this, is to connect with the DEED database, Department of Education of Economic Development, because we need to find out those salaries and stuff. And right now you need Social Security number to be able to do that. And we're going to try to find a way to do a match so that we don't have to have Social Security number. So you can't read these numbers, but what I did was I got in and did a comparison for Kennedy High School, which is our high poverty high school, and also for Jefferson. And then one of the matches with Kennedy was my old alma mater, Washburn High, chair for the Orange and Blue. They had similar demographics to Kennedy, and then I was able to compare, well, what was the average ACT score, what percentage of the kids went to college in Minnesota or outside Minnesota, how many were still enrolled after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and then how many actually got a diploma. And unfortunately, my alma mater back in 2008 and 9 was not doing as well, but I understand Washburn is really kicking. They're really doing great now. So this is the kind of thing each district could do. You can get into these data, and now they've put a filter on for poverty, racial ethnic status, so you can find out how big your gaps are in terms of college readiness as well. So I encourage you to get your evaluation people into this SLEDS database, and you may never see them again for a number of years. So bottom line was 57% of Kennedy students had a certificate or degree within 6 years. 49% of the state did, and 40% of Washburn. And some of the other schools are closer. Excuse me. So then we summarized that for the board, and we're not done yet. So now that we're into SLEDS, I did verify that the cut scores that we had for the ACT did work. 25 does predict getting into the University of Minnesota. 29 predicts getting into Carleton. But then I found that grade point average, Bloomington grade point average is predicted much stronger than any test scores. So we do have a grade point average that goes up over 4 with weighted 1.2 for accelerated classes and stuff. I found that out, but it turned out that a GPA of 3.4 or higher predicted with 80% certainty whether a student in the class of 2009 would be in a 4-year college. So now we put that into our PGP, so we can say, okay, your GPA is 3.0. If you really want to get into a college, you'll have a better chance if you get your GPA up to 3.4. Now we're looking, with the help of an intern from the U, I'm looking at social behavior, whether any of the attendance, et cetera, also produces over and above test scores and GPA. So ultimately, we're going to work with this really incredible professor from Macalester, who taught economics, and this last year was given an endowed chair at Texas A&M. And he wants to work with us as kind of a pilot to see what kind of return investment we get on this College and Career Readiness Academy. And we're just signing the contract this week, so I'm really excited to be working with Ray and his colleague. We're also working with Search Institute. You all know Kent Piquel. He has developed what they were calling a persistence survey, and now it has a new name which I can't remember. But all of our middle school and high school kids took this survey, and the immediate feedback was it was too long, took more than a period to finish. So that's true with researchers. We're always making those darn surveys too long. So they're going to cut it back, but then I'm going to work with his research team to see how well this persistence, or what people call grit, that whole construct predicts success, college and career success, academic success, social success. We're also working with Jeff Mariyama, my friend from University of Minnesota, who is the department chair in Ed Psych, and we've got a grant into NSF to be looking at standards-based grading. So our grading practices were pretty good, but if we went to true standards-based grading, we would get even better prediction of college outcomes, and would we get better prediction than other kinds of grades. Third partner is Hennepin County, where we have passed all the names of the kids that aren't on track for college and career readiness to the county, and we found out that 2/3 of those students are being served by Hennepin County. So we're doing data sharing agreements with Hennepin County as well. So what I encourage folks to do with their partnerships is to think of ways that you can evaluate. If you can get a comparison group, contrast group, to be able to measure the impact of your collaboration, then I think it could spearhead further funding and interest from the community. I think the private sector is really interested in investing in education now, and there are all sorts of potentials for it. So I'd like to turn it over to questions now. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you guys.
Oh, okay. Good.